Hi, my name is Gloria. I am doing my PhD here at Politecnico di Torino, and today I'm going to talk to you a bit about my research that I've been doing here, and I am particularly looking at collective behavior, in particularly with like for application with fish passage, considering hydrodynamics. So some background information about the biodiversity crisis. We heard a talk before. So to put into place, compared to the other taxa, freshwater species are the one witnessing the most dramatic decline, and migratory freshwater fish are a good representation of these. And thanks to the amazing work from the World Fish Migration Foundation, we have a report in which we know what are the major causes of this decline, and what you can see in purple, it's the major cause, that is habitat loss, degradation, and change, which is mainly river fragmentation. So if we look at the map of the river connectivity all over the world, we see that in red are the heavily impacted rivers with many barriers. We see that there are areas in the world that are heavily impacted, like North America. In Europe, as we heard before, we have 1 million barriers estimated, one every 2 kilometers, and also India and China are impacted. And this is really bad for the fish. Well, for some of you it's obvious, but it's good to refresh. So migratory fish, they need to move up and down on the river for completing their life cycle. And when they encounter a barrier, this is a problem. And one option is to remove a barrier, when this is possible. We have a lot of obsolete barriers, that has been said before, but sometimes this is not possible. So the idea is to provide a corridor for the fish to pass. And this is quite understandable for us engineers and biologists, but I think one thing that us engineers we have a problem to understand is that it's not enough to provide a corridor. We need to provide a suitable corridor for the fish to pass. And sometimes for us is hard to understand, because we need to consider two aspects. So we have to consider swimming performance and behavior. So in other words, if the fishes are able to pass and if they are willing to pass the fishway. And this has been historically researched on single fish, but it's known that collective behavior can affect both these aspects. So as the first part of my research, I've been conducted a literature review in which I clustered factors that are in which collective behavior can be important to consider in the application for fish passage. So first of all, energy expenditure. So when fish are swimming together, it's called schooling, and they are known to spend less energy because they exploit the vortexes created one next to the other. So that's an important factor to take into consideration. The second one is stress. We have here an amazing ESR who is doing work on that, and so basically this is called a calming effect. So when some species they are together, they have less stress, like hormones like cortisol or oxidative stress, and this is really important because it affects the life and the correct functioning of the animal. So really stressed fish can have problems to reproduce correctly, and there can be problems for their health. So another aspect is navigation. So fish, when they migrate in group, they are better able to locate and to find the migration routes and to go to the reproduction sites. And so it is known that there are different mechanisms for which they exploit the presence of one another to navigate and orient themselves. Another aspect is exploration. So sometimes it's referred to as boldness. So like when they are in group, fish, they tend to animals also in general, they tend to explore more the variable environment. They tend more to take risk and go and explore the area. And last but not least, also predation. Like predation dynamics can change. So for example, like it is known that sometimes predators, that can be predatory fish or even birds, they stall at the entrance of fishways because you have a lot of fish entering, and if the fishway doesn't have the entrance that it hasn't got a good attractivity, maybe they stall there for a while, and so it is known that some predators they go there. So I collected all of these in a literature review that will be published in sometime soon, hopefully. But one thing we noticed is that all of the research that has been done in this matter, interestingly, it has been done in still water, so aquarium and tanks, so no flow. And this is quite a problem because, as we know, rivers are characterized by heterogeneous hydrodynamics. So you have riffle and pools, and these are really important for the life of the fish. So our question is, so we wanted to investigate what is the interplay between collective behavior and hydrodynamic. How can both affect fish behavior and how they are intertwined? So we are studying this at Politecnico. Here is our lab, and it's really close by because you're here. So I don't know if you have time, but we can show you our lab. And we have actually our technicians here. And so what we are doing, we have an experimental setup that it's portable. We can bring it to the field, and we can control the velocity in the flume. We can put fish there. We have transparent walls. We can record videos with the cameras, and we look at their behavior. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about my methodology, because it has been a big chunk of my PhD, because it's we go to the field, it's the conditions are not so easily replicable. So the lights, they change sometime, and we're not in the lab, so light condition can change, and this really affects how you analyze video. And also because we look at flowing water, we have a lot of ripples in the surface, and that creates a lot of disturbance that makes it really hard to track fish. So I tried at the beginning of my PhD to use softwares that were available, but they didn't work in our case. So I have to find a different solution, and I used artificial intelligence to track the fish. So just gonna talk to you briefly about it. So I got the video, and I used deep learning approach that works. First, I annotated the image, so I created rectangles on the fish heads. That was a really tedious work because it has to be done for thousands of images to create a data set. Then I was able to train a convolutional neural network, test its performance, and then I got the detection data. So the detection data, they look like this. So they are boxes over the fish heads. They work quite well. So this is a high velocity case, so you have a lot of ripples, and they're even in areas where the fish is not really in contrast with the background, they can detect it. But the problem, it's look like this. So to reconstruct the trajectory, you need to know who is who. So after the detection, I performed the proper tracking, and I did this by making an algorithm that uses a Kalman filter approach with integrated ID recognition that has is stochastically based, some smoothing, and then I got my tracking data. That looks like this. So I was able to track the trajectory and reconstruct who is who. And when I overlapped it also to the videos, you can see it works quite well. So on left, you can see the detection, so like red points from the deep learning approach. And then on the right is when I implemented the algorithm, and you can see that even when they swap, when they cross path, they can, most of the time, they keep the identity. So it worked quite well. And so what did we do with that? Well, first of all, we analyzed the trajectory, simply how long they were for each fish. So you see here a graph representing the trajectory length for the lowest velocity for the groups of 1, 2, and 6 fish. We did experiments. And you can see here that there are not that much difference between the individual trajectory if they are alone or if they are in groups. Actually, the p-value resulting from the statistics is almost non-significant. However, when you increase the velocity, you start seeing that the effect starts to be apparent. So you see a trend, and you see that fish, they tend to swim more when they are in group, but you see this effect only after with increasing velocity. And similarly, we looked at the explored area, so the exploration that I mentioned before, we wanted to look at it, and actually we see a similar behavior. You see that there are trends that becomes apparent only at certain velocities. And so, as I mentioned before, sometimes exploration is referred to as boldness. So actually fish, they are bolder when they're in group. And this is no news. However, it is news that this is affected by velocity. And why is this? We came up with 3 different hypotheses of this behavior. So first, the stress that I mentioned before. So when they are in group, fish are less stressed. And this has been shown that sometimes if for hydrodynamically challenging conditions, some fish, they might tend to respond with a higher stress. And by being in group, this calming effect, it could balance out these things. So it's known that stress can affect the willingness of fish to explore, so they are linked. So one option could be this counterbalancing. Another option, more simple and more straightforward, is simply linked to the energy expenditure. So as fish, they swim together, I mentioned before, they save energy, so they have more energy to swim around and explore. And the third option we thought about was also competition over favorable areas. So our flume is not, like, the conditions are not perfectly homogeneous. So there are spots in which the flow field is more favorable for the fish to swim in, and so there might be some competition over those areas, in a sense that when the fish are alone, they have the option to just stay there, and when the fish are in groups, there could be some competition, like the chair game. I don't know. And but however, we don't believe that this is really an option. It could be a factor, but it's most likely not the only factor at play. And it can be that these 3 aspects are it could occur at the same time in different ways. However, this some take-home messages for you from this work. So overall, in group, fish tend to, well, not all of us, like the species we analyzed, but for gregarious species is most of the time the case. Fish tend to explore and swim more. However, this aspect, this effect that is called social facilitation. So social facilitation is simply the phenomenon for which an individual performs better when there is with conspecifics. Also for humans, how it works. And but this effect increases with flow velocity, and at low flow, there were not that much differences in trajectory and exploration. So this has 2 main implications. One more theoretical. So like experimental research should take, like when we look at collective behavior or social facilitation, it should consider hydrodynamics, especially for rheophilic species, because if you look only in aquariums or tank as it has been done before, you might lose an important physical phenomenon. And on the other, more applied, is that ecohydraulics, when we look at fish passages, for example, like we need, if we address gregarious species, collective behavior is an important aspect to take into consideration. So with that, I conclude. I want to thank my supervisors who supported me a lot in different ways in these years, and also the people I worked with, my ESR colleagues, my Polita colleagues, and also the people who helped us in the lab and in the field. And yeah, thank you.